folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka that Tellest guy. We are going to be talking Tellest today, and specifically we're going to be talking about the creatures of Tellest, but I think we're going to start with a little bit of a chat regarding a couple of the stories that we finished recently. So, we're in February, and what was it, the last 3 or 4 days, or was it right before February started that I finished the Christmas story?
I think it was before February ended.
So it had to have been like January 30th or 31st. So obviously I give myself all of December usually I can wrap it up before December 23rd, because the 23rd is when our Christmas adventures in the Tellest universe happen.
But this one in particular was a little bit challenging to write since it's our first year without our cat Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut was with me for like 18 years, maybe 19. Mm-hmm. She had been the constant that I had longest in my life.
She predated me.
She predated you, and she predated me owning this house.
Right.
There was a lot to that. What, you think that you're gonna be able to quiet up?
Our dog Luna is whimpering.
She's sad.
Or bored.
Right. It's always
Probably
bored. It's always a tantrum. So a lot of the Christmas story, what we write is, you know what? I have Luma bugs up. Where's my search for Luma bugs? I had a search for Luma bugs because Luma bugs show up in each one of our Christmas stories. So each one of our Christmas stories kind of tells a little bit about what we went through that year. Typically, it's the introduction of a new member or something like that. When we got Maisie, we had Christmas Feast. When we had Luna, we had Christmas Tantrum. I'm sorry, Christmas Comet. And this was the first year where we actually lost a member of the family prior to Christmas. It was a big struggle because Peanut was my little writing buddy, and writing without her was an even bigger challenge than I was expecting, especially because we wanted to tell the story well.
And I was not looking forward to reading it because I didn't want to be sad, and I finished it today whilst in public at in a waiting room, openly weeping.
Mm-hmm. But it's not. I mean, it's sad.
It's happy sad.
It's
cathartic sad.
There's a bittersweetness to it, and there was a therapeutic value in writing it for me as well. So I had to have finished it before the 29th because it went up on the 29th, but it feels like it was
yesterday.
Yeah, it feels like it was just yesterday. The other thing that we did earlier today, I finished work on our Halloween story.
A little behind this year.
So, Days of Shadow was a story that I started writing in October. Again, Peanut had already passed at that point. It was hard for me to get comfortable writing.
Luna's digging at blankets on the ground, and she's our little therapy dog, unbeknownst to her.
Mm-hmm.
Just makes us laugh every day.
We love when she's acting like a goofball. So Days of Shadow is done. I typically don't do anything special when it comes to the Christmas stories. Like, there's no delay or anything like that. But when it comes to the other short stories, my patrons get them first. So the patrons get them for, I think, like a 3-week bonus or something like that. So later on in February, everybody will be able to read Days of Shadow. That was an interesting one because it ended up being kind of antithetical to what my usual Halloween stories are, where, like, death and destruction follow everybody and there are no happy endings. Certainly while I was dealing with the loss of Peanut, I didn't want to have sad. So that's a fun story to write. It was a fun story to read back. I think that it's one of my best. I'm excited to get that into Tales of Tellest Volume 3. But
I didn't read it because it wasn't finished until today.
Mm-hmm. But it's finished now. What you doing? What you doing?
Stomping.
You're not going to have enough room to come up here.
Stomping and breaking everything.
Yep, that's what she does. Hi there. Hello. Yeah, this is the only reason that I should run a camera.
Because of her antics.
So anyway, as I mentioned earlier, the real point of today's story is we're going to be talking Tellest about the creatures of Tellest. We're going to try and see how well we can pull this off, talking about the smallest things first and then working our way up. And one of the other things that Rhianna and I talked about was we wanted to include clockwork creatures in that case if we could.
They were creations. I mean,
they're creations. They're man-made or humanoid-made, typically speaking.
But they're intended to be creatures.
Right.
So I think
some of them are sentient and things like that. So, so with that in mind, do we keep them in the rotation as we grow, or do we have them at like the end and circle back?
Let's keep them in the rotation as they deserve to be among their
peers.
Among their peers.
Excuse me. Okay, so then with that in mind, what we'll do is we'll start with the smallest things first, and I think that would be our two smallest insects, which are the Lumabugs and the rainbow flutters. There's the Lumabugs. Like I mentioned, they've been in every one of our Christmas story for I shouldn't say everyone because I don't know definitively if that's true, but you'll see a lot of the Christmas stories here. I want to say at least half of them.
They're luminous and colorful, so they belong in Christmas stories. I think
they are among some of my earliest encyclopedia entries on the website. So you can see this post went up in 2013, so it's a 10-year-old post at this point. Rainbow Flutter is the same thing. We don't technically have any art of the Rainbow Flutters, but we do have Folly's Glen, which was an art piece that was done for us by Dina Helmy. Now these creatures are supposed to be Rainbow Flutters and Lumabugs and stuff like that, but Dina kind of made them look
fairy-esque.
Kind of like fairies or sprites or stuff like that. And they have kind of the sort of luminescent, colorful look that you would expect from either of those things. And Folly's Glen is definitely a place that you would have seen that. A lot of the time when I was getting concept art by Dina, it was just kind of very abstract. So we didn't get anything that was 100% on point for what we were looking at as far as those things. But this captures at least the feel of things.
A little otherworldliness to it.
Yep, Folly's Glen is a very weird place filled with magic that's kind of wild. And it was the first real kind of landscape that we played with that had like a lot of magic of its own. Typically we're looking at magical, creatures and characters and treasures and stuff, but at this point the land itself was very magical. So let's get rid of Lumabugs and Rainbow Flutters and whatnot. Since we are going small to big, let's go to the Forest of Silence next. So the Silent Sprites talking about Halloween stories was our Halloween story from 2019, I want to guess. And it was a story about a forest that was kind of inhabited by, sprites that learned that it was better to be quiet than to make noise because of a dark presence in the forest.
And they make sure you're quiet.
They do. They make sure you're quiet. What they'll do is they'll use their magic to fasten you to a tree, and then they'll sew your lips shut with little needles that kind of serve as their swords. Yep, pretty grotesque. Why are you always stomping on everything? You're like the opposite of a horse. Typically speaking, a horse will not clomp all over things that it can't see.
Speaking of Tellest creatures, the Luna is best known for stomping on and breaking things, and also her howling screech.
And her laser beam barks. So what we'll do next is we will look at our Clockwork Mouse. So
It's adorable.
what did we name our
Mortimer.
Clockwork Mouse? No, it's not Mortimer, was it?
Mortimer.
Was it Mortimer?
Yeah.
We got a Clockwork Mouse that Rhianna made with clay downstairs. I feel like it's not Mortimer.
I think it's Mortimer.
I feel like I named something different. Anyway.
Bob.
Is it Mildred?
No. It starts with M.
Yeah. So, Mortimer. The Clockwork Mouse is the creation of, well, I'm sure there's probably other people who have made clockwork mice and stuff like that before, but in this case, our Clockwork Mouse is created by one of the Knights of Virtue, Maximus Sanders, who also created a Clockwork Horse, which we'll see in a little bit. The Clockwork Mouse was really his first kind of automaton creation. And then in the story that we wrote today, there was another little automaton creature that we made. We're not considering golems creatures. They're kind of more of like a humanoid that we just haven't really talked about in like the races yet.
Right.
But the artificer character that we have in the story that I released today has a automatic or a mechanical dragonfly that he uses to light up areas. So he'll kind of bring it out, throw it up in the air, and it'll stick to the ceiling, and its thorax will have like a luminescent, film in its, in its body, and that'll be how it lights things up. So, we have Bonebiter spiders, but luckily for Rihanna, no pictures of them.
Yeah, please don't.
We just don't have any pictures of any of our spiders yet.
It's forbidden. That's why I will never allow it.
We're gonna be like Grounded and have
the blur,
the arachnophobia mode.
I can't handle spiders. That's my. Shouldn't be telling the internet my biggest fear, but it's true. I can't stand them.
Do not send us a box of spiders in the mail.
I can't. Oh, stop it! I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking a picture with an email. Real spiders so much worse.
To be fair, if anyone sent us a box of spiders, it would hang out in the P.O. box until they were all dead.
Ugh.
What are you doing, you goober?
The dog, not me.
Both. Luna.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Stop doing it.
We're gonna put a gate up so that you can't traipse all over the place. Back up.
You're okay. And he's not playing.
Yes, he
You're
is.
being disciplined.
He's playing because I say he's playing. So anyway, the Bonebiter Luna is one of the earliest creatures that we created because it came out with Bindings of Fate, which was the first Tellest book, which is kind of like a legacy title now. We have not seen Bonebiter spiders since. Good. I don't know that there's any unique spiders that we've seen with the exception of the Nightmare Spider in Arise.
I like to believe that in the world of Tellest, there are no spiders.
You would be incorrect.
Oh, come on.
Come on. Look,
Just get rid of
she
them.
turned on Mario.
Oh, she turned on the Switch.
Play a game. I'm bored. This dog.
My thumbs, I will play.
So, yeah, we haven't seen the Bonebiter spiders. Let's close that for a moment. And I think
Bonebiter spiders.
at this point, maybe we talk about Aquinicus before we go to the Cervalis. The Cervalis is probably a little bit smaller than...
No, Legomorphs.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Legomorphs. And you know what else we didn't talk about? Squirvels. So, do you want to talk about the Squirvels since you know them better than I do?
Yep, so the Squirvels are a new creature that's coming out in the next book that Michael and I are working on. I like the idea of a flying squirrel, but they're not exactly like flying squirrels in the sense that we have. They're more like squirrels with dove wings, like they're flappy flying squirrels.
Flappy flies.
They are described as like once being like predators, basically. They're like highly intelligent, and they can also communicate with human speak to the extent of like a parrot would be able to talk. Like they have little yeah, like it was literally written so that he could voice it in an audiobook because he does that voice specifically. But like it's mimicking human speech.
It's akin
bit.
to, in my mind, Icarus from Little Nemo.
Yeah.
Not quite, and not as cartoony or anything like that, but specifically, and I'm very excited to be able to write this soon because within the next couple of days, I'll begin working on Whispers of the Weirdwood.
Yeah.
We get to write the first Squirrel, which is Bartholomew. So that'll be fun. It'll be interesting to kind of tackle a cutesy-wootsy creature because typically I don't think that the Legomorphs, what you see on the screen right now, they're very cutesy-wootsy, but very remarkably different than a Squirrel like Bartholomew.
Yeah, Bartholomew is intended to be a companion creature, basically, but he's got like a lot of personality, and I just imagine like the words that he says are kind of like what I imagine our animals to say like when they talk back to us, so to speak.
Mhm.
Like instead of like "Are you talking to me?" it would be exactly.
So I'm very excited to write about Bartholomew. Let's take a short moment because I have to queue up our sponsor spot and let some other people shine. So we will be right back in a minute and a half or so. Folks, we have seen frequent collaboration with lit RPG author Aaron Renfro, and that's for good reason. He's one of the hardest working storytellers in the business, and he writes incredible tales that you won't soon forget, and that leave you hungry for more. Well, his latest is here, and it's a high-octane, thrilling ride. Spite the Dark, the first book in the Assassin Summoner series, is gritty and exciting, and it harkens back to 80s and 90s action films in the best of ways. Fans will love spending time with Renfro's characters, exploring the world and the rule sets that he's built, and watching the action unfold. And they won't have to wait too long for more, as the sequel is planned for release this spring. Check out the promo for Spite the Dark on the Tellest website. Alrighty, and we're back. So we're going to be talking about the Ligomorphs now. They were an April Fool's joke from 2023.
But with many April Fool's jokes,
Oh.
it became
At this point, like it's not even
It's
like
not a
thing.
joke anymore.
It's when we introduce something in April Fool's, it's stupid, but it's also intended to be something that we're going to bring to life
Right.
in one way or another. So the Ligomorphs have always been kind of, to me, the ability to, I don't want to say like they're 100%ing merchandising ability or anything like that.
But they're marketable.
They're very
adorable.
marketable. They're the idea is that the Ligomorphs can shape change to look like someone else, but they do it very poorly. Like they're not fooling anybody.
But they do it as like a defense mechanism. Like you wouldn't hurt yourself,
Uh-huh.
would you?
Yep. So in this case, what we have is Minerva, a character who we originally introduced in what was it? One of the Tales of Tellest earlier stories, The Littlest Kobold.
Yeah.
We're talking, like
Many
year
years ago.
3.
Yeah.
This is probably like a 2016 character. And then she travels with an eclectic bunch. So she's got a goblin companion, a gnoll companion, and a dwarf companion. And the Ligomorphs have, changed to reflect each of those. So they don't really lose too much of themselves. So they've got their antlers, they've got their little paws and everything like that.
But
so.
they take different shapes. Like obviously the antlers on the dwarf are like Viking helm horns.
Mhm.
They're so cute.
Yep.
It's like a Build-A-Bear, but a little more
Right. And
more shifty.
we know eventually we're going to be making it into something else, and I think like we're very close to having 3D printers all around us at this point.
Mhm.
So we might see if we can do like an STL and have someone make us like a model of a Ligomorph and see how easy it is to like manipulate the color schemes and stuff like that.
I wish needle felting wasn't so time consuming and also dangerous because I stab myself a lot when I try. But
And they would be cute
would
little
be
plushies.
adorable, yeah.
So, so these were the original 4 Ligomorphs. Since then, we've decided we're going to be tackling them in a lot of different ways. So we've got these were the Ligomorphs that we introduced in Halloween of 2023. So here's the great thing about the Ligomorphs. They can transform into all kinds of public domain characters.
That's true.
So
and they know when a new one has become part of public domain.
that's right. We're gonna have Steamboat Ligomorph soon.
Uh-huh. Winnie the Poogamorph.
Winnie the Poogamorph. So obviously here we have a vampire, a werewolf, and a creature a la Frankenstein. So Stephen Belshaw has so far been the lone creator of the Ligomorphs alongside me. I mean, I was the one who conceptualized them, knew what they were going to look like, but he brought them to life in a way that has been fantastic. And he does such a good job helping me bring the vision to life. They're adorable. Like even though like they're trying to be scary here, freaking adorable.
But they are freaking adorable. Look at his little little snarl on the werewolf.
The werewolf snarl. And
I feel like the Dracula one's trying to go. Bleh.
Oh, absolutely. That's what he's trying to do. He's going. Ah. I like that the tail is red because it's supposed to be like his cape.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah, just really, really cool. I would imagine that we're probably going to see a couple more in April. But I have to talk to Steven about that and see what we can bring to life. But anyway, let's close that out. We'll do the Clockwork Horse, and then we'll move on to the Servalis, the Land Thresher, and the Lunar Dragon. So Equinicus is a clockwork steed that Maximus also made. He doesn't really prefer to surround himself with living horses anymore because he had a bad experience when he was younger. But instead, what he did was he learned how to Iron Man the crap out of a horse, and Equinicus is what we got out of it. And the picture that you see on screen right now is a traditional painting that stares me in the face every day when I wake up. It is in our bedroom right now. This is something that Rihanna actually made. You can see her name in the bottom right corner here. Proof.
It doesn't really show on like the screen, but it is gigantic.
It's big.
It's very big.
It's bigger than 4 feet by 4 feet, right?
Easily.
Yeah.
Probably like 5 by.
Did you do it on an easily?
No, I did do it on an easily. No, I did it on a canvas, but it's big.
It's very big. It's and also not really kind of represented well on the screen is there's a lot of metallic paints to this. So there's a sparkle and shine that this picture does not do it justice.
It'll never like I love using metallics because it almost looks like if you use metallic and matte, when you look at it from different perspectives, it almost looks like you have two paintings in one because like the light shifts it, but it doesn't translate well to photograph at all.
Right. We have one other picture of Equinicus here with a older Maximus riding atop it. This was done by Hosier, who has gone on to work at League of Legends. Like he's done like a lot of cool stuff. This is one of the earlier pieces that he did for us because I think we started with the Tales of Tellest characters with Hosier, and this was probably the third figure that he did for us.
Right.
Equinicus doesn't quite look like this, but I'm a firm believer that there's many different timelines in the Tellest universe, and there's a multiverse just like with the Spider-Verse and the MCU and stuff like that.
I mean, not only that, half the fun of the Tellest art is seeing different interpretations of the same concept. And...
Yep. Now there's one other Equinicus that we have, and it's a faux Equinicus. Equinicus. This is Zebraeth. This was, again, talking about interpretations, this was done by our artist Azot. So obviously there's some different kind of mechanics to this horse. It's got a unicorn horn for one, a little beard, and then you can see it's kind of got like zebra-esque stripes here and there. So very not Equinicus, but fun and unique.
But cool,
so.
Yeah. It almost looks like the way that the belt is there. It looks like it's like a saw, like a chainsaw.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Uncomfortable to ride, but very cool concept.
So we don't actually have Zebraeth in any of the stories or anything yet, but I would imagine that it's a rival inventor's creation. It's someone who saw Equinicus and went, oh, I can do something like that, and I can do it better. So eventually we will have a story for that made, because there's going to be people who try to catch the lightning that Maximus has caught. Let's see, we've got the Servalis next. Let's move this guy over. So this is our badger wolf deer hybrid, the Servalis. This we've never actually seen this in the flesh yet.
But we
will. So the Servalis was originally introduced in passing in one of the Reese Tales as part of Tales of Tellest Volume 2, and in Whispers of the Weirdwood we see it first in a first-hand experience by is it a flashback or is it a...
It's a flashback, but then there's like pieces of like evidence of them
Mhm.
being around still.
This would also make for an adorable plushie. The antlers would be the only thing that I can't imagine would be very soft and cuddly, but you could make some velvety antlers and stuff like
put
that.
wire in it. It'd be cool.
Yeah, so this was pretty fun. This was the three creatures that we're going to show you now are all ones that we got from Warren Zuen Lee. So this is our first one, the Servalis. The next one is our Land Thresher. So this is, again, we're talking about interpretations and things like that.
Mole rat armadillo.
Basically, but they're supposed to kind of be more sharky. So when I was talking to Warren about the Land Threshers, we had kind of more of like a phasing aquatic creature that could live underground. This one looks like he legit digs and stuff like that, and I would imagine that most of them do. But the ones that we envisioned had kind of more like a sea monster-y kind of feel. But again, the idea is that there's a lot of variety in the Tellest universe,
Right.
whether you're talking about the main timeline and the main universe or alternate dimensions and stuff like that.
I mean, this looks like it would make sense, like
Yeah.
as a digging creature, because you could kind of use the arms to swim. I'm making a swimming motion for anyone who gets.
You've got actions for radio. So, yeah.
I mean, I like the little tendrils as like a feeling mechanism, because the eyes aren't really important if you're underground.
Right. In this case, this version of the creature hasn't really shown up anywhere except this art, but we do have the alternate versions of Land Threshers that showed up in The April's Fools, and arguably one of the biggest, action sequences that we've had for a long time. I worked on The April's Fools and the Quantum Quest novelization like back to back, and they both have gigantic action sequences. Because what author does not want to have a train heist and pulls it off by having Land Threshers as the engine for a land train without tracks? So that was kind of where the Land Threshers came from. They came out of a necessity. So
one day we'll have some kind of merchandise akin to the Dune popcorn bucket.
Oh, God.
For the Land Threshers.
So this was the, I think, first creature that Warren did for us, but I think... Gorgeous.
Love it.
Gorgeous.
It's so beautiful.
You're stunning. So I think it was the first one, but I think it's the most spectacular. So we have the Lunar Dragon here. I think this was probably one of the pieces of art where we were like, we need to start doing mouse pads.
Right.
Because it really is just
beautiful piece of art.
Yep.
Love it.
It's exquisite.
Very interesting.
So another thing, we kind of, Warren has been my let me rewind that. Warren has been one of my most prolific artists that I've worked with. Hosier was probably one of the first, and then when he moved over to Epic and worked on League of Legends, or I guess that's not Epic, Riot Games. When he went over there to work on League of Legends, we really didn't get a chance to work with him again, and that kind of broke down. But Warren has been working with me almost once a month at least for 2 or 3 years at this point. He did 2 of the backs of the bookmarks. The only other artist at this point who I think gives him a run for his money is Steven, who has done a couple of the other art pieces and the Ligomorphs and stuff like that. But Warren has definitely cemented himself as one of our most...
Cristiano now too, because of the book.
Cristiano has done some awesome stuff with the book, and I can reach out to him with a lot of stuff. He does a lot of the meme things. He did the Levians, which we talked about in the Races of Tellest and things like that.
If you want a sequel to the books, you got to give him the proper shout out he deserves.
But he's never done a creature for us yet.
The cat.
The cat.
Ambrosius.
I mean, Ambrosius.
Ambrosia. I think that's the name of the cat.
I like Ambrosius.
Ambrosius.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous Ambrosius.
So Warren made the Lunar Dragon for us first, and we haven't actually had a story to commit the Lunar Dragon to. And we do have an artifact, treasure, whatever. It's technically a plant called the Astera Obsoluna, which is...
She heard her name.
Oh, I'm so Luna. I think she's just upset because she's chewing on her foot and she's not happy. But it directly links to the Lunar Dragon mythology. And I think we had talked about having Dirk have a story element with a Lunar Dragon. So I think that would be a fun little time to experience all that. Now, obviously, there's going to be tons of other Tellest creatures. We talked earlier about having like the Manticore mentioned and the Griffin and stuff like that. But we are beyond our 30-minute mark at this point, so we can always save them for, a volume 2.
They just to mention, like, they exist in, like, the things that typically exist in mythology will exist in Tellest in some form or another, because it is a fantasy land.
Yep. And they're pretty typical. Like when you go to Merge Dungeon, you can see all the very typical things. You see the Phoenixes and the Thunderbirds and the Manticores and the Chimeras. But we like to kind of bring new things into the Tellest universe as well. Yeah! Luna, can you speak for us?
She's reminding us that dogs are part of Tellest, obviously.
Can you speak? I didn't say can you creak. I said can you speak. Speak. You are such a lump right now. Well, oh, there you go. There you go.
Good girl.
All right, so we're going to see if we can wrap this show up with the show closing page. So, on the screen right now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest out there on the internet. The most prevalent one is www.tellest.com. Nobody says www anymore. Why did I do that?
Yeah, old.
So that's basically like our link tree. You can go there and it'll show you all the places that you can go. But this screen is helpful too if you want to see any of our digital premium stuff. That includes the art posts that we release on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And as we have them on Tuesdays and Thursdays, our TTRPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and Pathfinder related things. We drop those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you want to see the physical premium goods, you can find them on tellest.etsy.com. That is the giant mouse pads, like the ones that you can see the Lunar Dragon on, our battle maps, posters and stickers and bookmarks, and not that's not for sale. Rihanna's magic wands that she makes, they're one of a kind and they're handmade. And you can also find those wands on tiktok.com/@weirdwitchwands. And also you can check out our other TikTok channel, which is tiktok.com/@talesofTellest, where you can see Luna making a fool of herself every day of her life.
It's TAILS, Tales of Tellest.
Tails, like doggy tails. And then you can also find that with the same handle on Instagram as well. And then the last two places that I'll bring your attention to are youtube.com/@worldoftellest, where you can find these videos after they expire from Twitch. And then, of course, if you want to see us live, you can only do that on Twitch at twitch.tv/thattellustguy. Man, you're such a spaz.
Don't say that. She's a good girl. You good girl.
Spaz is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Are you being a big old dope?
No.
Are you being a big old dope?
Little silly girl. Love you, baby.
She's a good doggy. Anyway, that is going to wrap us up for the day. Are you going to...
Oh, you want some chalky milk?
I would love a chalky milk.
The man want his chalky milk?
The man do want his chalky milk.
The man gets his chalky milk.
That's going to wrap us up for the day. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for looking at all of our cool pictures and letting us talk at you for a half an hour. And that'll wrap us up for today. So we'll miss you.